What if I told you that 93% of adults in America are already sick, and most of them have no idea? Not just tired, not just overweight, truly sick at the deepest level, where their very cells are starving for energy, even while drowning in sugar and fat. Imagine your body being surrounded by endless food, yet locked out, unable to use a single bite. That is what's really happening inside millions of people right now. And here's the shocking twist. It's not candy or soda that's destroying us the fastest. It's the hidden starches in everyday foods: bread, pasta, cereals that taste bland, but act like pure sugar bombs in your bloodstream. The result? Diabetes, heart disease, kidney failure, Alzheimer's, crippling conditions we thought were unrelated, but all rooted in the same silent killer, metabolic disease. In this video, I'm going to reveal the #1 best meal to fight back, to help reverse this cellular energy crisis, and why almost everything you've been told about food is upside down. Welcome to the Nutrition Institute, where we uncover the truths about health no one else dares to tell you. If you want to stay ahead of the lies and take control of your health, hit that subscribe button now so we can keep bringing you powerful videos just like this one. What if I told you that the majority of Americans, yes, almost everyone around you, is already dealing with a disease that goes far beyond being overweight? Not just a little extra belly fat, not just a slow metabolism, but something far more serious, a complete energy crisis inside the body's most basic unit, the cell. This is what scientists and doctors now call metabolic disease, and it is silently robbing millions of people of their health and their future. Now, here's the part that really shocked me when I first learned about it. Metabolic disease is not simply about struggling to lose weight. We've all heard the phrase slow metabolism and maybe even blamed it for why the pounds won't come off. But that's only scratching the surface. What's really happening goes much deeper. It's a failure of energy at the cellular level. Picture this. You're sitting in your house, you're starving, and outside your window, there are trucks loaded with food, enough to feed you for weeks. But the doors are padlocked shut. You can see the food. It's right there, but you can't touch it. That's exactly what metabolic disease is like. Your body is swimming in sugar and fat, but your cells are locked out, unable to use it. Think about how terrifying that is. Your brain cells are surrounded by fuel, but they can't burn it, so they slowly begin to starve. This is exactly what's happening in Alzheimer's disease, sometimes called type 3 diabetes. Your nerve cells literally wither away, not because food isn't available, but because the locks on the doors can't be opened. And in diabetes, the same process plays out. People with type 2 diabetes often have high blood sugar levels all the time, but they're also losing vision, developing kidney disease, suffering from heart failure, and even having their toes amputated because of nerve damage. How can someone with so much sugar in their blood be starving? That's the cruel paradox of metabolic disease. Here's another fact that should make you pause. 1 out of every 4 Americans has type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or chronic kidney disease. Let that sink in. 25% of the population. But it doesn't stop there. A Harvard study revealed that a staggering 93% of U.S. adults have at least one abnormal health marker, whether it's high blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess belly fat, fatty liver, or even something as subtle as chronic inflammation. That means only 7% of people, just 7 out of every 100, are truly metabolically healthy. So the odds are not in your favor. When I first heard these numbers, I felt a mixture of fear and frustration. How could this be happening in a country with so much access to medical care, advanced treatments, and health information? The answer, I realized, is that we've been looking at the problem all wrong. Doctors treat each symptom, separately: high blood pressure, with one pill, high blood sugar with another, high cholesterol with yet another. But the root cause isn't being addressed. The real issue lies inside the mitochondria, the tiny power plants of the cell that are supposed to turn sugar and fat into energy. When they break down, everything else falls apart. And here's where the shocking twist comes in. The foods we've been told are harmless or even healthy are the very foods fueling this breakdown. It's not just the candy bars or soda. It's the hidden starches in bread, cereals, pasta, crackers, and processed snacks. These starches don't even taste sweet, but once you eat them, they behave worse than sugar. They flood your bloodstream with glucose, spiking your insulin levels, and over time, they lock the doors to your cells even tighter. The average American consumes the equivalent of 87 teaspoons of sugar per day. Once you count both the visible sugar and these hidden starches, if you factor in higher calorie diets, it could be as much as 131 teaspoons daily. Imagine dumping that much sugar into your system every single day. It's like pouring jet fuel into an engine designed to run on clean, balanced energy. No wonder it burns out. This is why so many people go years, sometimes decades, without realizing they're in danger. Their blood sugar levels might look normal on a routine test, but only because their pancreas is working overtime, flooding the body with insulin to force that sugar into storage. For a while, the numbers on the lab report look fine, but behind the scenes, the pancreas is being pushed to exhaustion. After 10, 15, or even 20 years of this constant battle, it finally begins to fail. That's when the blood sugar levels climb, and the doctor finally delivers the diagnosis, type 2 diabetes. By that point, the damage has already been done. When I reflect on this, I realize just how backwards our approach to health has been. Instead of focusing on preventing this cellular energy failure, we wait until the system is broken and then try to patch it with medications. It's like ignoring the smoke pouring out of a car engine, only to install a stronger air freshener to cover the smell. We treat the symptoms, but we don't fix the root cause. So what's the takeaway from all of this? For me, it's that the way we think about food has to change. We can't keep obsessing over calories or just avoiding sweets. We need to understand that not all carbs are equal and that hidden starches are silently driving a health crisis. We need to ask ourselves, why are we following the same advice decade after decade, yet the rates of diabetes and heart disease keep climbing? Maybe, just maybe, it's because the advice itself is flawed. That's why this conversation matters so much. This isn't just about losing a few pounds or fitting into smaller jeans. It's about saving your energy, your brain, your heart, and your future. Metabolic disease is the silent foundation of so many chronic illnesses. And unless we confront it directly, no amount of medication or dieting tricks will save us. When I first learned about metabolic disease, the obvious question popped into my head. If this problem is so widespread, what can we actually do about it? The answer, surprisingly, doesn't come from a complicated medical procedure or the latest pharmaceutical drug. It comes from something far simpler, our everyday meals. Now, before I dive into the specifics, let me clear up a major misconception. For decades, we've been told that red meat is dangerous, that it clogs arteries, raises cholesterol, and should be avoided if you want to live a long, healthy life. I used to believe that too. But then I looked deeper, and what I found turned that belief upside down. Because the truth is, when you choose high quality red meat, specifically grass-fed and grass-finished beef, it can actually become one of the most powerful tools for healing your body. I know that sounds like heresy in today's health world, but here's why it makes sense. Red meat isn't just protein. It's packed with nutrients your mitochondria desperately need to function properly. Compounds like carnitine, creatine, And carnosine aren't just fancy science terms. They're the transport workers that help shuttle fat into your cells so it can be burned as energy. Without them, your cells are like cars without fuel lines, plenty of gas in the tank, but nothing reaching the engine. Red meat is also one of the richest sources of heme iron, zinc, selenium, and vitamin B12, all of which play critical roles in energy production and cellular repair. And here's the kicker. These nutrients are either absent or far less bioavailable in most plant-based foods. Yes, you can get some of them from fish or eggs, but the concentrations in red meat, especially grass-fed beef, are unmatched. I've personally noticed the difference. When I include high-quality ground beef or lamb in my diet, I feel sharper, more energized, and more resilient compared to when I rely mostly on chicken or fish. It's not about eating massive portions of steak every day. It's about choosing nutrient-dense foods that actually feed your mitochondria. But of course, protein is only part of the story. The foundation of a truly healing meal starts with plants, specifically leafy greens, that do more than just fill your plate with color. Take arugula, for example. It's not as popular as spinach or kale, but it's a powerhouse when it comes to cardiovascular health. Arugula is rich in natural nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is like nature's blood pressure medication. It relaxes and opens up your arteries, improves circulation, and directly counters the damage caused by insulin resistance. When your insulin is out of balance, nitric oxide levels plummet and blood pressure skyrockets. By bringing arugula and similar greens into your diet, you're not just eating a salad, you're literally giving your arteries a breath of fresh air. Now, imagine building on that salad base with simple but strategic additions: a splash of apple cider vinegar, which has been shown to improve blood sugar control, a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, loaded with polyphenols that act like tiny repair crews inside your blood vessels, a sprinkle of roasted pumpkin seeds, bringing magnesium to the party, a mineral that not only calms your muscles and nerves, but is essential for generating energy inside the mitochondria. Add in some nutritional yeast for B vitamins, an avocado for potassium, and suddenly you're not just eating, you're fueling your body in a way that heals rather than harms. This is the kind of meal that flips the script on metabolic disease. Instead of flooding your system with refined carbs and forcing insulin to go into overdrive, you're lowering the carb load, giving your pancreas a break, and training your body to tap into its own fat reserves for fuel. That shift, moving from sugar burning to fat burning, is the true marker of metabolic health. And the test is simple. Can you go from one meal to the next without feeling ravenously hungry? If you can, it means your body has learned to use its own fat for energy. If you can't, then there's more work to be done. Let's not forget dessert, because yes, there is room for pleasure in this lifestyle. The key is to make it purposeful. Take yogurt, for example, but not just any yogurt, the kind you can ferment yourself to grow beneficial strains of bacteria like L. reuteri. This microbe is often missing in modern guts due to antibiotics and formula feeding, but it plays an outsized role in metabolic health. It improves insulin sensitivity, reduces harmful bacteria, and even boosts oxytocin, the love hormone that enhances social connection and reduces stress. Pair that with a square or two of dark chocolate, rich in polyphenols and magnesium, and you've got a dessert that supports your heart and your brain instead of sabotaging them. Contrast that with the typical American dinner, maybe a plate of pasta, a side of bread, a sugary drink, and a processed dessert. On the surface, it feels comforting, maybe even balanced because of the food pyramid we all grew up with. But under the surface, it's a metabolic disaster, blood sugar spikes, insulin surges, mitochondria strain, and eventually energy failure. It's no wonder so many people drag themselves through the day, propped up by caffeine and sugar, never realizing their cells are crying out for a different kind of fuel. This is why the best meal isn't about chasing trends or buying exotic superfoods. It's about real, whole ingredients greens, healthy fats, nutrient-rich proteins, fermented foods that work together to restore your body's natural energy balance. And when you start eating this way, something incredible happens. Your cravings begin to quiet down, your energy stabilizes, the constant hunger that once drove you to snack all day long fades away. You feel, maybe for the first time in years, that your body is on your side again. For me, the biggest revelation is how small, consistent choices add up. Swapping out a bag of chips for a handful of roasted seeds, choosing a grass-fed burger over a fast food one, adding vinegar to a salad instead of a sugary dressing. These may not sound revolutionary, but over time, they can mean the difference between living with chronic disease and living with vitality. And here's the question I want to leave you with. If a simple meal salad, quality protein, purposeful fats, and a thoughtful dessert could truly help reverse diabetes, heart disease, and more, why isn't this the mainstream prescription? Why are we told to fear red meat while being sold low-fat, high-carb foods that only make the problem worse? The answer may lie in the way our food system and healthcare system operate, but that's a conversation for another day. For now, what matters is this: you have the power to choose. Every meal is either a step toward metabolic health or a step deeper into metabolic disease. And the #1 best meal isn't a secret anymore. It's right in front of you, waiting for you to take that first bite. When I first realized how much impact a single meal could have, I thought to myself, if one salad with the right greens, one high-quality burger, and one probiotic-rich dessert can shift my body's metabolism, what could happen if I lived this way every single day? The answer is both inspiring and humbling, because it means that the future of our health isn't written in our genetics. It's written in our daily choices. Let's be clear. No single meal will cure diabetes, erase years of heart disease, or instantly restore your kidneys. But what it can do is send a signal. Every bite you take is like flipping a switch inside your body. Eat refined carbs, ultra-processed snacks, or sugar-laden drinks, and you flip the switch toward insulin resistance, inflammation, and mitochondrial burnout. Eat nutrient-dense whole foods, rich in fiber, minerals, healthy fats, and quality protein, and you flip the switch toward healing, repair, and resilience. Over time, those switches add up, creating either a cascade of disease or a foundation of health. And here's where it gets exciting. When you consistently make the right choices, the benefits ripple far beyond your blood sugar or blood pressure readings. Imagine waking up in the morning without that heavy fog in your head. Imagine going hours without feeling desperate for a snack because your body is calmly burning its own fat for energy. Imagine going for a walk after dinner and feeling light instead of sluggish. These are not distant dreams. They're the everyday experiences of people who decide to eat in alignment with their biology instead of against it. One of the most practical strategies I've adopted is reducing meal frequency. For years, I thought eating 3 meals plus snacks was the healthy thing to do. But all that did was trap me in a cycle of constant hunger and insulin spikes. Now, by sticking to 2 meals a day, sometimes even one, I've discovered a freedom I never expected. I no longer carry snacks everywhere. I no longer panic if lunch runs late. My body simply switches to burning stored fat, and life goes on. That shift isn't just physical, it's psychological. It feels like reclaiming control over my own appetite instead of being controlled by it. Of course, food alone isn't the whole story. Lifestyle choices can amplify or sabotage everything you put on your plate. Take walking after meals, for example. It sounds so simple, almost too simple, but a 20-minute walk can help your body clear excess sugar from your bloodstream, improve insulin sensitivity, and even boost your mood. High-intensity interval training and resistance workouts, when done consistently, build muscle that acts like a sponge for glucose, lowering your risk of diabetes. And then there's sunlight, something we often take for granted. The infrared light from the sun penetrates deep into your tissues, supporting mitochondrial function, while vitamin D helps regulate your immune system and metabolism. These are nature's therapies, free and available to all of us, yet so often ignored. Another powerful step is what I call creating barriers to temptation. It's easy to say, I'll just eat less junk food. But let's be honest, if it's sitting in your pantry, the battle is already lost. That's why I made a rule for myself. Don't bring ultra-processed foods home. At the store, you only have to say no once. At home, you'd have to say no over and over again, night after night, when cravings hit. Removing the temptation from your environment is one of the simplest, most effective hacks for staying on track. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't just about food or even about disease prevention. It's about quality of life. Chronic illness robs people not only of years, but of energy, clarity, and joy in the years they do have. Metabolic health, on the other hand, doesn't just add years to your life, it adds life to your years. When your cells are nourished and energized, you don't just survive, you thrive. You connect more deeply with others. You chase your passions with more vigor. And you live with a sense of vitality that's hard to describe until you experience it. And here's where the conversation comes full circle. We started with the shocking fact that 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. That statistic can feel overwhelming, almost hopeless. But now imagine what would happen if even a fraction of those people changed course. If instead of loading their carts with processed snacks and sugary cereals, they filled them with leafy greens, quality proteins, and healthy fats. If instead of fearing sunlight, they embraced it. If instead of fearing red meat, they chose it wisely, the ripple effect would be enormous, not just for individuals, but for families, communities, even healthcare systems drowning in the costs of chronic disease. So the question isn't whether one meal can make a difference. The question is whether we're willing to stack those meals, one after another, until they form a lifestyle. Because the truth is, you don't need perfection. You don't need to get every single choice right. What you need is consistency. You need to choose, more often than not, to flip the metabolic switch in the right direction. Over weeks and months, those choices accumulate like compound interest quietly, steadily until one day you wake up realizing you've transformed not just your diet, but your life. I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about your next meal. Not next week, not next month, just your very next plate of food. Ask yourself, is this meal feeding my mitochondria, or is it draining them? Am I giving my body the chance to burn clean, steady fuel, or am I flooding it with sugar and starch that will leave me hungrier in a few hours? If the answer doesn't feel good, change it, because with every meal, you're shaping your future health. And finally, let me ask you this. If you had the power to add not just years, but energy, clarity, and vitality to your life, would you take it? That power is sitting on your plate, waiting for you to decide. When I step back and look at everything we've uncovered, one truth becomes crystal clear. Metabolic disease is not some mysterious condition lurking in the shadows. It is the direct result of the daily choices we make, what we eat, how often we eat, whether we move our bodies, and even how much sunlight we allow ourselves to receive. The tragedy is that millions of people are trapped in this cycle without even realizing it. But the good news, the empowering news, is that the way out is simpler than most of us have been led to believe. Think about it. Our cells are not broken. They're waiting for us to stop overwhelming them with sugar and refined starches, waiting for us to feed them nutrients they actually recognize and can use, waiting for us to give them a chance to heal. And when we do, when we choose whole foods, when we reduce the frequency of eating, when we embrace movement and light, the body responds with resilience. It's like watching a neglected garden come back to life once it finally gets water and sunlight. For me personally, the biggest shift has been realizing that food is not just fuel, it's information. Every bite I take is a message to my body. Thrive or struggle. When I used to load up on bread, pasta, and processed snacks, I was unknowingly telling my body to prepare for disease. Now, when I build meals with leafy greens, healthy fats, grass-fed proteins, and probiotics, I'm telling my body to heal, to energize, to grow stronger. That perspective changes everything. Food is no longer about restriction or guilt. It's about empowerment. The lesson I've learned, and the lesson I hope you take away, is that health is not about perfection. It's not about never touching dessert again or following a rigid set of rules. It's about stacking the odds in your favor, one choice at a time. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Just start with the next meal. Swap one refined carb for a whole food. Add one walk after dinner. Spend 10 minutes in the sun. These small acts compound. And before you know it, you're living in a different body with a different level of energy and clarity. So here's my invitation to you. Reflect on your own habits. Where could you flip the switch in the right direction? Where could you make a change that your future self will thank you for? And let me leave you with one simple question. Do you believe that changing the way you eat just one meal at a time could change the entire trajectory of your health? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective and learn from your experiences. If this message resonated with you, please subscribe to the Nutrition Institute. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content that empowers you to take control of your health and your future. Together, we can build a community where knowledge leads to transformation.